How's it going, guys? What we're going to be doing in this video is actually tinting the windows on my 2018 Toyota Tacoma. This is a truck that I had just recently got and decided to tint the windows just because I didn't like the fishbowl look. And one thing that I cannot stress enough is the fact that you need to spend the money and get a good quality tint whenever you're going to do a project like this. Years ago when I was younger, I used to actually tint windows for people. Something that was fun, but it's just a very enjoyable thing. And I decided to just come back out to my shop with my new truck and see if I was still able to do this and just have a lot of fun doing it. It was something that was very enjoyable for me. Again, you cannot go wrong by spending the money on a good quality tint. And I'm going to show you here now. What you're seeing is my 2002 Tacoma. This tint that is on it was done in 2002. And it is still in very good shape. A lot of your cheaper tints that you'll get at a lot of your auto parts stores and things like that will actually turn purple. I'm sure that some of you guys have seen that. So if you get a good quality tint, it's not going to do that for you. It is going to stay dark. It still has the charcoal look, and it's going to look great for many years to come. As I had mentioned, this truck's 2002, and that tint has been on since 2002. And we're going to be putting the same kind of tint on my 2018 Tacoma, and I do not expect it to be any less quality. I think that it's going to last just as long, and I really look forward to getting it done. Now, you need to have a good work area to do something like this. You've got to be out of the wind. You need to be somewhere in a shop out of the wind, and you need to spray down any concrete, which is what you're going to see me doing here in just a minute. I'm going to spray down the concrete, and that way it's going to kind of help keep the dust down and help make the job much cleaner. That's something that is very important to do, is you've got to keep your work area clean. You've got to keep the windows clean. Here you can see me just spraying down my shop floor, and then I'm just going to kind of brush it out, and that way it will kind of help to keep the dust down and give you a better overall finished product. Guys, I'm actually going to be starting on the back glass, doing it first. I want to get my seat out of the way to give myself a little more working room so I can fold this up. This here, if you squeeze there's a little button right here on the side. You can see it right there. Push that and it raises this up. I hit this other one, and I'm doing this with one hand, so bear with me. I can pull this completely out of the way, set it somewhere safe. Now I can fold this seat all the way down flat, and that's going to give me access to the back glass. And that way I can get in here, get it cleaned up, and be able to get the tint on much easier. Guys, I cannot stress to you enough of how important it is just to make sure that everything you do is on a clean surface. I think that's one of the biggest reasons that people will get imperfections and things in their tint. What I'm going to do now, I've just got some soapy water here and a rag. I'm just going to wipe this area down here, including some around the top of the truck, because I'm going to be having the tint here. Of course, it's not going to have the backing off of it, but I do want to keep everything just as clean as possible. So I'm just going to spray it down here, just this whole area, and then just wipe it down. And just try to get some of that crud, some of that grime, just whatever is there, away from it. I don't want that on the tint. I don't want it in the finished product. Okay? Again, just get around here too, because that tint will be touching some of this. And just wipe down the area just like that. It doesn't take that long. You can take a squeegee, hit that glass as well. We're going to be spraying that because I'm actually going to be cutting this back glass starting back here on this. You see this line? Let me pull you up a little closer here. There is a line here where this seal is on the inside of the vehicle. That seal is very close to this line. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to be cutting very close to where this is, just to make sure that I got it covered real well. I'll take it onto the inside, do my finished sizing, and then I will install it. There you can see just how close it is that black line is to the very bottom of that glass, and it's the same up top. So I want to make sure that I get the tint covering all of those areas. Again, I'm going to oversize it just a little bit from the outside, bring it in here before I pull the adhesive off, and then do a final trimming and then stick it to the glass. So that's where we are at the moment. Alright guys, you want to make sure that you have got a very sharp razor. You know, one of these knives right like this works great. We're going to get our tint ready to lay up here and just get a rough sizing. Again guys, I can't stress it enough, you will get much better results if you get a good quality tint. That cheap stuff that they sell in the stores is not going to do you. Typically on a tint like this, the outer portion is going to be where the film is, and that's what we're going to be peeling off once we get everything done. So I know that my film is going to be going to the inside of this glass with this portion here, so when I pull this off, that's going to expose the adhesive. So what I'm going to do now, just spray my glass, just get it good and saturated. You don't want to spend the money on the squeegees, which they're not really expensive. I'll link them down in the description. You can also get some of these Bondo applicators. These things work well also. So now I'm going to take my tint, lay it up here onto my glass, and again I'm just getting a rough size. I don't want to worry about getting everything precise right now. I'm just trying to get a rough size of the tint that I'm going to need. Take my razor and just right down through here, cut my tint, like so. Okay? Take your piece of tint and make sure that you don't have any creases or anything like that in it also. Just going to get it on the glass, leaving myself plenty for the moment. Then just anchoring it down. You don't have to get real particular with it, but give just a little bit of spritz, a little lubrication on the outside. Get it anchored where we can start cutting. Having a light on the inside of your truck shining back this way is going to give you a real good line here that you can cut off of. You'll see that in just a moment. Alright, and you can see now how the light is shining back through, and it's giving me a good idea of exactly where that line is here that I'm going to be cutting on. I'm not sure how well you can see it in the camera, but it is very distinct, where I can use my knife, go around there and get a very rough size to what I need it to be at. And again, you want to make sure that you keep all of these corners over, just to make sure that you give yourself enough. If you cut too much, you can't stretch the tint usually to get it to cover, so it's easier to cut it just a little larger and then do your final trimming. That's what we're going to do now. And again guys, there are a lot of shops that can do this. Some people will just take it to a shop and have it done. I'm kind of a do-it-yourselfer, and plus I used to do this stuff myself for other people, and it's just really enjoyable for me just to get outside in the shop and do something productive, and just a lot of fun. So here we go. Let's see if we can make some of our first cuts on this tint. Try to keep it at the same angle. Try to keep it uniform all the way through. And I'm going to make sure that I'm a little oversized. Using my finger to kind of help stretch the tint prior to get to a specific point. I know that the guys that do this stuff for a living can easily cut these out much closer to the finished size than what I can. But again, it's been a little while since I have actually done something like this. So thought it would be a good chance to get out here in my shop and to see if I still had the touch. Right now I'm just going to rough clean it just enough to be able to bring the tint in here to rough size it, or to finish size it, because I've basically got it oversized right now. So we're just going to bring it in here, stick it to the glass, and do our final trimming on it. Anchor it in the middle, just like so. You don't really have to put a lot of pressure on this. You just want to have it tacked in place where you can get in here and start trimming. Alright guys, we have it sized, and basically I have the tint in place as it would be. I just wanted to make sure that I had everything the exact size that I needed before I stick it on. And just kind of looking over it just to see if there are any areas that I might want to double check. Now you can see some bubbles up here. Like I say, I still got the film backing on this. So what I'm going to be doing now is pulling this off, cleaning the window, scraping it with a razor blade, making sure that it is perfectly clean, pulling the adhesive backing off, and then applying our film. Now when you pull the backing off of one side, when you have identical windows, save it, and it can give you just a little bit of an idea of getting the size right on the other side. You can basically rough cut the other side very closely to what you're going to need just by saving that film. So now we're going to pull this off and clean this glass and get ready to apply it. You pull that backing off, keep that film wet. Try to keep everything away from it. Just like that. Give it a good spray. As I mentioned earlier, hang on to that backing. So I'm going to give this a good spray. Just like that. And apply the film to the glass, sliding it into all the corners. Be sure you don't crease it. Just like that. Give it a little bit of lubrication. And I usually will start from the middle and work my way out. Watch for any fingers coming up around any of the edges. If you get any on the sides, try to bring it down to where they are on the bottom and just keep working them out. Always keep an eye on your corners, because that is one area to where the tint can actually roll up just a bit. Let's get some of this water up here. This is my truck, but I know it's not going to hurt it, but I still like to keep things clean. Just go over everything. Double check it from the outside. You can do this with a hair dryer. I just like using a heat gun, but be careful, don't hold it in one place too long. You know, I like to wet it again. Just make sure everything is squeegeed out real good. Make sure I don't have any fingers on the bottom. Just like so. Does not take a lot of heat. You don't want to overheat these. If you have any corners that are not seated good, do not let that heat gun hit them, because it'll roll it up and then you'll have a gap. Alright guys, I'm going to show you a time-saving trick. I just got this old tub lid just laying out here to give me something to work on. I'm going to take my tint, roll out about what I think I'm going to need. Like that. Make sure that everything is okay. And you remember earlier where I said to make sure that you save that backing. Okay, here it is. This is that film backing off of what we did earlier. And what I want to do, I want to make sure that I have it turned correctly. I know that the side facing me is the adhesive side. Looking at my back glass, it is currently facing me in this direction. So what I'm going to do now, I'm simply going to spray this down a little. Take my film, lay it down here just like so. I'm going to use that bottom straight edge that's already there. And this is going to give me a rough idea of where I need to cut. Okay? This is kind of an old trick that I used to do years ago. Like if I had was doing a vehicle and I would use one side, the backing off of one side, just to give me an idea of where to cut for the other. Okay, it might not be a perfect cut, but it's just a little bit of a time saver. It saves you from having to put stuff up there on the window 2 or 3 times, things like that. So I'm just going to trim that there. I know where my top is approximately. Give myself just a little bit of extra room for final trimming. Just come over like this. Make sure that I stay on the outside of that backing all the way down. Okay? Now I've got a rough size film that I can take inside, do my final trimming, and it's just a little bit of a time saver for getting these done. One of the hardest things to do about the sliding glass windows is around this notch, this latch. Basically, you can cut it so close on the outside and then try to slip it in place. I always find that I had to trim that much more just because I always wanted to try to get it as close as possible. What I'm going to do here is just through some easy cuts. So I've got everything, got this anchored. I have got it close to where it's going to be in its final position. On the bottom, that's the side here, I still have to trim, which is no big deal. up here at the top. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to tuck this in on right around that latch. I'm going to take my, there again, my squeegee, my Bondo spreader, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to use it kind of as a guide, and what I'm going to do is push that in, and then just as close as I can, I'm going to slit the film, okay? And I'm just going to keep working it around, keeping pressure on the film, okay? I've got it slit there. I'm actually going to go ahead and cut just a release through here, just right back to where I made that trim. That way it's going to give me a little bit of ease and a little bit of strain relief. Keep working that around. And again, guys, patience is your friend on doing this, okay? Keep it as close as possible. Be very careful. Don't get in any kind of a hurry, or you will mess up, especially doing these. Now, I'll show you how to fix a mistake. Where I'd cut that up a little high, what I'm going to do is simply come over just like this. Like that. Okay, where I'd cut that up just a little bit high, all I've had to do was just make another notch, and since I left this excess over here, I was able to slide it right over, and that way we are able to fix a mistake that we made. So I just need to trim off this little piece here. Now all we've got to do is just keep trimming. Just make sure that I'm anchored good. And again, leave that little bit of excess when you do one of these back glasses like that, and it will make your life a lot easier, as you just seen, if you make a mistake, which clearly did on this. But since I had that excess there, I was able to straighten it up very easily instead of having to cut a whole new piece of tint. Just going to get this anchored and keep trimming. Pay particular attention where you cut this around the latch. Make sure that you get everything pressed in, squeegeed out, because if you don't, it will bubble right around that. That's one area of that you want to pay particular attention to. Leaving that excess over there, that mistake that I made, that was no problem to fix. You know, always, leave yourself a little bit of extra, just like I did there when doing this, and it will save you a little bit of grief. It will help you to be able to get that glass done without having to cut a whole other piece at times. I mean, just a little bit of excess here, and you're able to slide it over if you do make a mistake, just like you see me do. I'm not going to edit that out. I'm going to leave it, and maybe it'll help some of you guys out there that try to do this for yourself also. So we're just going to keep squeegeeing this out, double checking it on the outside, and making sure everything is done. And then we will be moving on to the side glasses. Now we're going to be moving on to the side. So give it just a little bit of soapy water. Wipe down even up here, because the tint will be touching the top part of the door as well as some of this other. So I'm just going to kind of wipe it down just like that. A little bit of spray. Trim back Rest of this, just like that. On the Toyota window, the way that it is curved on this back, when you trim this back line here, you don't want to go all the way up, or you're not going to be able to get that top profile looking as nice as it should. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to use the bottom straight edge down here. I'm just going to begin to anchor this in place, just like that, just to give me a good surface area to trim. Okay, I'll move you guys over here to where you can see a little more about what I'm going to be doing. That way I won't be directly in front of the camera. When you trim it here, you're going to want to shift it just a little bit, you know, about maybe a ½ inch or so, just to be able to get, not ½ inch, ¼ inch to ½ inch, something like that, just to be able to give you enough room back here for final trimming. Okay, so just make sure we're anchored here, just like that. Again, don't go all the way up, okay? Give yourself a little room to get that curve. I'm just going to follow this line down, just like this. Make sure I'm not stuck where I don't need to be. Use my finger in front of my razor. I can feel about where I am at. So I'm going to come up about there. Better to just come back and do a little bit of fine trimming than to have to start over with another piece. Okay, I'm also going to have to come in here to trim the bottom part of this. Remember guys, shift this forward slightly to give yourself a little bit more room to work with back here. Okay? I'm going to about the edge of that trim, that seal that's right here. I'm sliding this up till I meet it. And that is going to give me about what I need back here for when I trim this. You know, having that shifted forward, it's going to give me just a little bit more material back here to be able to get it behind that door, or that seal, that door seal. So I need to trim my bottom, same process. And just kind of pull that up, tuck it in. Just follow that all the way down. Okay. And now, as I mentioned before, I'm going to come up to about right here on this edge here. That way I have got plenty to work with here. Okay. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to find where that curve starts. I want to make sure I don't go above it. Just kind of tuck that back. Just like so. Is that window being curved there? That window being curved, again, you cannot get that where you're going to need it if you don't leave you just a little extra material. Okay, well that starts to curve. right there. Use my finger as a guide. Follow that all the way down. Tear that off, just like that. Now what I'm going to do is pull out this bottom edge, just like this, because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to roll this window down slightly to where I can trim that top edge. Again, holding that out where you don't crease it. Pull that down to the top edge, and you can see that excess where I left it here is going to do what I need it to do when I pull that back, because it's trying to shift it up in here. Let's see, when I pull this back to where that's even, it's going to give me this line that I need back here to look a little bit better. Okay? So let's spray that down and anchor it once more. And you need a very sharp blade to do this. Okay, this is a good time to break off your blade, have a fresh edge. Try to do it in one continuous motion if at all possible. Keep it at the same angle. I've got my finger in front of the blade to kind of help act as a guide, and I'm going to follow it all the way up to the very front. That front seal is just like that. Make sure that I've got it rounded off the way that I want it. Now what I'm going to do is actually come in and I'm going to finish cleaning this glass. And also you're going to want to make sure that you clean inside this seal very well. If you don't clean inside there, if there's any kind of trash or buildup in there, it's going to get underneath that film. So I'm just going to take a few minutes and go ahead and clean that window real good. Alright guys, I've got my glass cleaned. I have got inside these seals, these gaskets cleaned real well. You can take something like this and get in there and get those contaminants out. You're also going to want something like this to be able to pull that bottom seal back to where you can get that tint to slide down into place. Basically what I'm ready to do now, I'm going to give the glass a final squeegee down. Up top I've got my heat gun ready. I've got everything that I need ready for when I pull this tint over. I've still got it stuck to the outside of the door right at the moment. I just want to squeegee down some of the dirt, just like that. I'm going to take a cloth, wipe down some of that water, get this good and wet. Have my spray bottle ready because I'm going to need it up here. I'm going to start on a corner of my tint and pull the film away. I did not pull off all of the film from the bottom of that because I don't want it laying directly on that. on the door. Just pulled it down part of the way. Now what I'm going to do is lift my film off. Careful not to let it wrinkle. Get it onto the glass. I want to get this top edge into position and get it lined up right where it needs to be. It's going to take you a little bit of moving it around. You want to make sure that you do have it where you can run your windows up and down if necessary. And start trying to get it anchored. Just like that. Start working it in. Really work on getting that top edge set. Okay. Take your heat gun. Try to start getting it set right where it needs to be. A little bit of lubrication. Slowly bring that window up, making sure that it does not roll up anywhere that it doesn't need to. Make sure that you work your trim. Now what I'm going to do, make sure, get my window all the way up. Pull this back, pull the rest of this film off, this backing, spray the film, just like that, start working it in. Alright guys, just like before, I have got my tint up on the front glass. I'm just kind of making sure that I've got it anchored well. I'm using that straight edge on the roll down to line up with the bottom here. And what I'm going to do now, I'm going to make my front cut, then I'm going to make my back cut, and we're going to continue. Try to hopefully get this finished up before much longer. Again, I'm just going to make sure that I've got this anchored. I want to make sure that I've got that tucked in just a little bit to where I can make a good clean cut. Come in with my knife. Pull away. Back, pull that loose, just anchor it just a little better. Starting at the bottom, using my finger to help guide the blade. Just going to do a rough cut to get some of this excess off. Alright guys, here it is. It's still a little dirty. I still need to go back with some glass cleaner and clean the windows. But I think that it just looks so much better having those windows tinted like that. It'll also help to save the interior. I did not do the windshield, but I may do that later. I haven't decided yet. It's not perfect, but at the same time, it is very good. It's pretty good, guys. I mean, there's no tint job out there that is absolutely 100% perfect. I'm sure that someone can find a problem in it somewhere. But this was fun to do. Again, I had used to do this for other people years ago when I was younger, and I wanted to tint the windows on this truck. And instead of paying somebody to do it, I just decided to do it myself, just because it's a lot of fun, guys. I really like doing this kind of stuff. And anyways, let me know what you think, guys. I will put links down into the description below where you can go to pick up some basic tinting supplies. And don't forget, guys, use a good quality tint. You will not regret using a good tint. If you use a cheap tint, you will regret it. This kind of tint, like I said, is some that lasts a long time. This is a professional grade tint, and typically they will sell those in a larger roll, but you will get a much better performance out of them. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Check out the rest of the videos on the channel. Let me hear from you. Don't forget to subscribe, and we will see you next time.